You've tuned into Bent Air.
That legislation gives us hope that we will someday soon be equal.
Wait a minute. Kylie Minogue is from Australia.
I know, you would think.
The United Nations Nicholas Toonen alleged that his human rights were violated in Tasmania.
I say, what the devil is all the fuss about? I don't get it. What's in there? Bing bong! Hello!
1976, when I made this public, I went and knocked on the neighbours' doors in rural Tasmania, and they were fantastic about it.
This is your weekly LGBTIQ community radio show.
And I am here today because I am gay and I'm tired of hiding.
The Hobart City Council apologises for prohibiting the gay law reform stall at Salmaker Market in 1988.
Do you know that dolphins are just t-shirts?
I was sure from at the age of about 4 or 5 I should be a girl. I'm not supposed to be a boy, wanting to play girls' games and play with the girls at school.
The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her.
I wanna be her. Yes, I do.
On Edge Radio 99.3 FM.
Be kind to one another.
Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Tracy.
That was an intake of breath.
I'm excited.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I feel dead inside.
Oh,
no, I don't really.
Oh, thank God. There's enough rainbows around here, too.
Yeah, I know. Plenty of rainbows. Lots of rainbows because you're listening to Tasmania's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex and great big queer radio show. We love being queer.
We do.
We love bringing you queer stuff. And I'm sure you love it too. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we're always curious to see if we've got lots of regular listeners, that sort of thing. But get in touch with us on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Bent Air Radio. You know, let us know what you think.
Yeah, and it's also the place to see articles that we refer to. We post everything we talk about, don't we? And we also post links to the songs that we play as well. So it's a great collection for posterity of just how fabulous we are.
Just how fabulous, indeed.
And you are.
And yes, indeed.
We do it for you.
Yeah, we do. We love bringing you all the queer news and queer songs by queer artists and, and discussing all things queer. We'll be doing a lot of that today. So strap yourself in.
And enjoy the ride.
And on what is an absolutely glorious Hobart sunny morning. So, enjoy yourself. I'm going to start the show with a bang in terms of music. I just found this last night. There's a new song out by Lady Gaga featuring Sia.
Oh, brilliant.
There is. There really is. It's called Gone. And I hadn't heard it before. But anyway, it's a dance number and it's pretty good.
Okay. I'll just take my jacket off.
You're listening to Bent Air. That's such a long lead out. I think I'll just fade it down gently.
Oh, wasn't sure what was happening there.
we were having a conversation, Matt, and we got lost in it.
Oh, well, that happens.
Not surprisingly, because we are a bit bent ourselves. You're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. And it's, that was Sia. Featuring Sia. It was Lady Gaga featuring Sia, a new song called Gone.
Well spotted.
Nice dancing number, that one.
Yep, I'm a bit warm now, so it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, what were we going to talk about?
What's coming up?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about World Hepatitis Day.
World Hepatitis Day. What is it?
World Hepatitis Day is one of 4 UN-declared international health sort of awareness days, if you like. Don't ask me to tell you what the other 3 are. One of them's World AIDS Day, but I don't know the other 2.
Okay, well, health promotion. That's good.
It'd be interesting to actually find that out. I wonder what they are.
Or make them stand up and compete against each other.
I wonder if there's a World Malaria Day.
Maybe not.
A world...
Mental Health Day.
Yeah, maybe there is.
That'd be good. Anyway. Why did I jump on that? So, what's happening on World Hepatitis Day?
Well, around the world, people mark the day with a variety of things, but as the name would suggest, the main purpose of World Hepatitis Day is to actually raise awareness, particularly about viral hepatitis, and certainly particularly about the 2 big killers and have the greatest impact long term on people, which would be hepatitis B and hepatitis C.
Because why do they stand out compared to hepatitis A?
Hepatitis A is an acute illness and it's very common, but it very rarely results in death and it passes fairly quickly. It's passed on basically through fecal contamination of food, water, that sort of stuff, which is why it's so common. There's lots of third world countries that don't have access to, hygiene and fresh water, that sort of stuff.
But it's treatable quite quickly. And it's also preventable by a vaccine.
Yes, it's got a vaccine. I was going to say it's preventable by washing your hands as well.
Oh, yeah, well, that's probably good.
And not washing frozen berries in contaminated water, that sort of stuff. But, as I said, that's not so easy in some countries.
Yeah.
The focus is on hepatitis B and hepatitis C, which are also preventable. Hepatitis B has a vaccination, but they're both preventable in terms of avoiding the means of transmission. They're bloodborne viruses, unlike hepatitis A. So somebody's blood has to get into your bloodstream.
Yep.
With a little bit of exception around hepatitis B in that it is actually also sexually transmissible.
Okay.
Yeah, about a third of the world have been infected with hepatitis B.
Wow, right.
Yeah. But hepatitis B, it can be an acute illness that then passes and you have an immunity to hepatitis B after that.
Okay.
But for some people, they go on to develop it long term and it becomes a chronic condition, and that's where it can eventually cause damage to the liver and potentially death.
So that'll be does everybody need to be monitored if you contract hepatitis B at any stage? You've got to be monitored for the rest of your life, or once you clear it, is it cleared for life?
Yeah, once it's cleared for life.
Okay.
The big concern overseas for hepatitis B is children. If children get it, they almost always go on to develop it as a chronic illness, and it's often fatal for children.
Right, okay.
For adults, it's not so bad. Nevertheless, if you do have hepatitis B as a chronic illness long term, you certainly should be monitored regularly, because you want to just keep an eye on your on liver health and that sort of thing. And there is, while it's not curable, there is some treatment available that helps and improves things.
But since the late 90s, in Australia anyway, I think we've been getting vaccinated in high schools for hepatitis B, haven't we?
We have, yeah. So some of the older people out there, and it's also true, for instance, I've been vaccinated for hepatitis B, but sometimes people's vaccinations run out. It's not supposed to, but it can happen.
Oh, right.
And of course, it's a course of 3 injections, and sometimes people miss the last one or the last 2 even, and which means that they don't have full immunity.
Okay.
Either. So, yeah.
So it's worthwhile checking in after a couple of years?
It definitely is. One of the biggest problems, and this is also true to a lesser extent, but still very much a concern, is with hepatitis C as well, is that lots of people don't know they've got it. It's often called a silent killer, especially hepatitis B, because people can have it for years and years and years without actually realising it, without it having any impact.
Wow. But it's slowly working away in the liver.
It's slowly working away. They used to tell people with hepatitis B that they were a healthy carrier, and we certainly advise doctors and other clinicians and stuff not to use that term anymore, because it does give the false impression
that you don't need treatment.
Yeah. And even, and it's understandable in my, like, for instance, if I was told I was a healthy carrier, then I'd assume that I probably wasn't a worry for transmitting it to anyone else either, which is also not always the case. Yeah.
Well, this reminds of the alarming data in Tasmania about HIV transmission as well, that HIV-positive people don't know they're HIV positive for 4 years or so. So what's the answer? Get tested.
Getting tested.
Regularly. Yeah. What a surprise. Why does it keep coming back to that? There must be something in that. I don't know. We'll think about that.
Absolutely. And I mean, that means doing the work that, like myself and Matt do with the Tasmanian Council on AIDS, Hepatitis and Related Diseases, which is TASCARD, is reducing some of the stigma and fear and misunderstandings around bloodborne viruses. Some people know that they may have been exposed to a bloodborne virus in some manner or another, but are too worried about, I guess, in a little bit of denial maybe, about not wanting to find out, because that means you have to do something about it.
Or telling people because they might judge them. What have you been up to?
Yeah, exactly. So reducing that stigma and stopping shaming that goes on around things like HIV and hepatitis C is really important. And like everything, it gets solved if you talk about it.
Yeah, talk about it with your friends, start a local friendly discussion and mobilise people to get tested.
Get tested regularly if you've had condomless sex, if you are an injecting drug user and you know that at times you may have been exposed to a virus. It's important, absolutely. It helps if you know you can go to a doctor who's not going to discriminate against you, who's not going to judge you, but is actually just there to support you in engaging with your own health and improving it, and protecting yourself and the others around you. And that can be hard because, unfortunately, doctors aren't supposed to be judgmental, but many of them are.
Yeah, they're just humans after all.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, finding the right service is really important as well. And if that's the one reason for you, for instance, out there in listener land, that you've been putting it off, give Tascard a call.
That's
tell
right.
you where to go. But certainly I can tell you right now that Sexual Health Services, they're around Tasmania. They've got a base in Hobart and in Launceston and on 1 or 2 days a week in Devonport as well. Get in touch with them because they're fabulous. They won't judge you. They're completely confidential. They understand how important it is for your privacy. As Tascard does as well.
Yep.
And if you happen to be a hard-working 9-to-5er and can't get into the clinic...
Oh, yes, like me.
Exactly. Then you actually can get into the clinic at Clinic 319.
Oh, yes, I've heard about this.
Well, it's next door, so yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
It's a room next door to you, so yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah, Tascard has actually got an outreach clinic that we do in association with Sexual Health Services as well. In a few weeks, our fabulous nurse practitioner who runs that clinic, Elle, will be coming in to discuss all things STI.
That's right. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, she's going to all the squishy, dischargey,
Yep.
Flappy, dangly,
Juicy, gooey.
all that stuff. She's going to be talking about it on air.
I'm
not sure which one of us is more frightened, but
look,
I think it's probably Elle.
Yeah, she was a bit nervous, but I think she'll realise how friendly and how much fun it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be doing that. But, on staying on point, Matt.
Yes, World Hepatitis Day.
Yeah, World Hepatitis Day. It's coming up on July 28th. Tascard is having an open day and a launch of World Hepatitis Day in Tasmania. The actual official launch itself is at 11:30, but our open day, which will be also opening our new drop-in space, our fabulously renovated drop-in space, anytime between 11 and 2, you can come in and have a poke around, have a gander.
Who can drop in?
Anyone can drop into the drop-in space for during the open day. If you were attending the launch of World Hepatitis Day and the official opening of the drop-in space, then we wouldn't mind an RSVP.
That'd be good.
You can give us a call or email us. We'll put those details up on our Facebook page.
Yep.
And even if you're not a Facebook person, because there are a few people out there who aren't, you can actually just open Facebook and look for Bent Air Radio, and you'll find that you can still open it even if you don't actually have a profile on Facebook yourself.
Cool. So we're pushing people's awareness about World Hepatitis Day.
Yeah.
But we better play a song.
We better. We've been rambling so long.
But I think we also better talk about Hep C, because I'm a bit curious.
Yeah,
we'll do that when we come back.
All right. Sounds fabulous.
What's coming up?
Well, I don't really know.
Do you want a dart? Could throw a dart.
We could throw a dart. No, what I'll do is I'll play the song that I said I was going to play earlier last week. And poor Andrew put the link up and then I switched on him. And so this is a Courtney Barnett song. Courtney Barnett is a fabulous Tasmanian and an out lesbian. And she's doing wonderful things all over the world. And this is Elevator Operator.
Lovely.
Listening to Ben Dare.
Hello.
Surprise. We're getting very easily distracted today.
I was distracted by important HIV news.
Yes, I know. So was I, and that's your fault.
Sorry.
I'm Tracy. That's Matt over there. It's his fault.
Hi. I take the blame. Punish me.
And you're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. We are talking lots of health stuff, and especially relating to the LGBTIQ communities, for which this radio show is for and about and by.
Yes.
Which is not meaning it's bisexual as such, although it can be.
Yeah, how would you test that?
Yeah.
We could give it a go after the show. Sorry. So moving right along.
Yeah, there's a very big conference happening on the other side of the world at the moment. Yeah, it happened in Melbourne last year.
Okay.
Or was it the year before? Anyway, yeah, the International AIDS Conference in Durban, in South Africa. Yeah. It's a good place for it to be. South Africa does have an overly big burden of HIV in that country. There's lots of people who are positive. South Africa's made incredible inroads into achieving more people on treatment, as opposed to some of the other sort of poorer African cousins. But yeah.
I wonder how they've done that. Awareness.
Yeah, finally raising. Got some awareness raising. Finally got traction with their government and leaders. So yeah, which is good, because it was a very big problem and it remains a very big problem. It's still a big issue for lots of people, and even in South Africa, not everyone has access to treatment. Australia is very lucky in that regard. We were talking about this last week, in that Of course, AFAO made a recent announcement saying that the AIDS epidemic in Australia, as opposed to HIV itself, is pretty well over, and it's very rare for someone to die of AIDS in this country, which is relatively true. I mean, I think some people felt that perhaps there was a presumption there that that we didn't have to worry about AIDS as an issue anymore, which is certainly not true for some people. But yeah, I guess I understood where they were going with it, and they were also trying to destigmatise the issues and draw attention to the difference between HIV and AIDS.
And it's slightly misleading though, because it's not generically true that it's the end of AIDS. It's only the end of AIDS under one condition, and that is that people are getting treated if they're HIV positive. Yeah,
exactly. And certainly globally, it's not true at all, unfortunately. I think the estimates are about only half the people in the world who are HIV positive actually have access to treatment. And that's which means that they will, either quickly or slowly progress to AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, and die from that. So and that's what we were looking at right now. Brent Allen, who's the CEO of Living Positive Victoria, is over in Durban, the lucky bugger, at the conference, and he's put an article up that sort of demonstrates that he's very concerned that there is a decrease in funding, and like sometimes announcements like, "Yay, AIDS is over in Australia, we don't have to worry about it anymore."
Stops all the money.
It can potentially have that effect of people just going, "Oh, we don't have to worry about it anymore." Of course, HIV is very much a concern. There's about 1,000 new notifications of HIV in Australia every year. Which means generally a lifetime of treatment, and also it can cause some fairly major health concerns for people because, as you were saying earlier, Matt, a lot of people don't know for at least a few years, and it can do quite a bit of damage in that time.
The viral load's it's reproducing itself, it's increasing.
Inflammation, that sort of thing, sort of low-level, not really noticeable cellular inflammation, that sort of thing, brain organs. It can do damage like in the time before it's picked up and you start getting treatment. Treatment right away, it makes a big difference. But yeah, unfortunately, not everyone knows that they're positive, and that also, of course, means they're a transmission risk for others as well.
Which again, not joking this time, but that's why getting tested regularly is so serious.
Yeah,
such a serious
that's so
topic.
important. Yeah.
I'm just looking at this article. Have you heard about the UN AIDS Fast Track 90-90-90 targets? That's in this middle paragraph here. Might read it out, would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The global call to achieve the UN AIDS Fast Track 90-90-90 targets for 2020, which is 90% of people who are living with HIV will know their HIV status. 90% of people living with HIV who know their HIV positive status are on antiviral therapy, and 90% of people living with HIV are achieving viral suppression. It's not a small task. But apparently the numbers at the moment are 40, 50, 60. So pulling your funding back is not a way to go to get those targets achieved.
No, I mean that's a bit of a loaded statement in there as well. He said that Brent has said we may crow about an end to AIDS in Australia. That's a bit of a dig, isn't it? But this is not the case around the world. And that certainly is. Do you know that Australia has achieved one of those 90s?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is the 90?
For those who are on antiretroviral therapy, 90% have an undetectable viral load, which is pretty good. I always wonder about those leftover 10%ers, because that'd be pretty crappy being one of them. But anyway, so yeah, we haven't quite got to 90% of people who are HIV positive knowing their status, and we haven't got to 90% of people who know their status being on antiretroviral therapy, but we have at least achieved that last one. The ones that are 90% on undetectable viral load, which means they're at virtually zero risk of transmitting it to anyone else, and best of all, keeping themselves very healthy. Someone with an undetectable viral load and on treatment can expect to live a normal lifespan, the same as anyone who's not acquired HIV.
One of the news stories that our fabulous volunteer at TasCard, Matteo, sent through to us was a summary of the serodiscordant partner study that's going on. We could have a look at some of the statistics that come out of that later, but it's really quite impressive, showing that if your viral load is undetectable, then risk of transmission is practically zero.
Yeah.
So we can have a look at that later.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, so it's some major things going on at the conference over there. I know there's been, a protest and at part of it, and there's also been some concern about, and it's the usual groups that are being left off the map a bit. You know, there's a lot of, particularly in Australia, there's a lot of focus on men who have sex with men, when of course in different parts of the world, in particular sex workers, not so much in Australia, sex workers are very well educated and look after themselves, and there's never been a recorded incidence of HIV transmission by a sex worker in Australia. They're an engaged and on top of it all community. That's probably an unfortunate turn of phrase.
Don't know, that sounds quite good to me.
There you go. Actually, yeah, it was great. But yeah, injecting drug use as well, very, very low incidence of HIV transmission in Australia, but overseas it's very different. We were fortunate in that lots of people jumped in and made a big difference for HIV in Australia. But in other parts of the world where sex workers have very few rights and don't have access to health services, and also same with injecting drug users, they don't have access to needle and syringe exchange programs and that sort of thing. So the incidences of HIV transmission are unfortunately much higher over there. But they still get left out of talks a lot. There's so much added stigma on top of being HIV positive for them in terms of either sex work and or injecting drug use, that it's very difficult for them to gain traction. And that's been the story in Australia as well, to a lesser extent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll keep you posted on, I'm not sure how much longer the conference will run. It's been going for at least a couple of days already, but we'll keep you posted on anything else interesting that comes out of that. But yeah.
And we'll post a link to this story as well, so people can have a closer look at the details.
Yeah, and certainly globally, I mean, that's a pretty startling figure, that 14 out of 15 countries that have decreased funding, including Australia. Very much so. So yeah, it's a worry. We don't want to be taking our eyes off the game when it's at such a vital point, you know, in terms of being able to make a difference and reduce transmissions and reduce illness.
Yeah, very close, but still a way to go.
Yeah, you could almost say we're on a cliff's edge, which is a great segue into the song called Cliff's Edge.
Well done. Gosh, bonus point.
I know. This one's by Hayley Kiyoko, and you're listening to Bent Air. It's just another one of those songs that finishes before you really think it's going to, isn't it, Matt?
Although there was that birds tweeting in the background. No, that's just me dreaming.
It was birds tweeting.
Oh, was it?
But then I turned it down.
Okay, you're
tweeting me. And then they stopped.
Okay.
They stopped, all right? You're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM, and if you're not a subscriber to Edge Radio, you should be, because they bring you fabulous content like this radio show.
They do. What would you do without us?
What would you do without us? So yeah, become a subscriber. You get access to prizes. It's wonderful. Good for you.
Speaking of prizes... there's an opportunity for artistic people in the community to win a prize.
There is indeed. That's with the Artfully Queer, the Tas Pride Artfully Queer exhibition 2016, which is over at Rosny Barn this year, coming up towards the end of September.
Okay.
If you are an artist, what's the best way to do it? Because there's something wrong with the Tas Pride website at the moment. We can't put a PDF up there, which is very annoying.
Okay.
But what you can do is go to the Tas Pride Facebook page. There's actually an event for Artfully Queer. Now I think about it, if you put in Defiance, Artfully Queer, you'll find it. Because Defiance is the theme this year.
The theme, Defiance.
I picked that myself.
Oh, did you? Good on you. Wow.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? What kind of things are you talking about when you talk about Defiance?
Defiance seemed like a really good idea at the time, and sadly it remains so, because at the time there was so much going on around the Safe Schools Coalition and the plebiscite stuff. And yes, that's all still going on, annoyingly. But then there was also other things that were happening around the world as well, which, rights, the rights of LGBTIQ people around the world being reduced, say, in places like Russia, being attacked in other parts of the world. And then, of course, obvious ones like the Orlando shootings and things like that have had quite a big impact on us. But in particular, it was the safe school stuff and the plebiscite, and the lack of marriage equality that's going on in Australia. So, yeah, I picked Defiance because I just want people to, those who are going to contribute to the art exhibition to use that in some way as a theme. The theme is always so broad. I mean, you know, artistically you could interpret that in so many different ways. So, but yeah.
Defiance seems to me like it speaks to the resilience that we have as a minority group.
Yep.
We continue to survive. We continue to fight back. We don't get shut down. We're defiant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
wow.
Standing up in the face of it all. And as I've said on the blurb, on the entry form and on the Facebook event page, you know, it might be, you might put together a piece of work that's really obviously reflecting on, say, marriage equality, struggles, that sort of stuff. Or it might be a much more personal, you know, quiet defiance that you're living every day, you know. And I know that's certainly true for lots of people in our community. So, yeah.
What was the theme last year? I went to the exhibition last year and it was so beautiful. I just remember being really, you know, struck down by a couple of the works there. And anyway, this year's theme's defiance.
I picked that one too.
Good.
But blow me down if I just can't think of what it was right now.
That's all right. We can look it up and make a post.
I'm afraid we'll have to.
That's right.
But yeah.
So yeah, do you know when do people need to apply to participate in that?
I haven't got the form in front of me, Matt.
Okay.
I think they need to have the form in about a week before it starts. And
there's ages.
The opening night is about September 21. It's a Friday night. It actually starts the day before, but yeah, the opening night's Friday night again over at Rodney Barn.
Which is spring too.
Yeah.
Lots of reasons to look forward to it.
Exactly.
Cool.
So yeah, get into that. I was going to talk about my weird existential philosophical sort of thoughts last night because I found a Ria May song, which is what I'm going to play next.
Oh, okay.
Played one of hers last week, and our social work placement student Jack really liked it. So he's probably not listening because he's busy doing uni stuff. But I'm playing another one now, and this is called Clothes Off.
Clothes Off.
Clothes Off. But what led me to my thoughts was, and we always post links to videos where possible from YouTube and stuff for when we play music, and we will do so with this one as well. But in the song I played last week, she sort of plays a character where her and her girlfriend are obviously having relationship troubles, and the dialogue that's the subtitle dialogue is going, you know, you're not telling me what's really going on. Where do you disappear to? All this sort of thing. Anyway, it turns out that her girlfriend is disappearing to run this major drug dealing operation out of a nightclub.
Oh.
And she goes in and she, you know, the Ria May character has been kidnapped and she gets taken there. And then the girlfriend goes, "This is me, you know, do you still want me? This is what I do."
Oh, okay.
And the Ria May character says, "Yeah, I know." And then the police come in and arrest the girlfriend. And it turns out Ria May is also a police person. But which I didn't like at all. But
that's a bit rude.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm someone who's in favour of decriminalisation, so I just think that's a bit of a nasty story. However, what struck me, and then it struck me more in this video for Clothes Off as well, is that Ria May, as the singer, is positioned always as the other. Like in the video for Clothes Off, and by the way, I don't believe there's any nudity in it. She's just the way it's filmed is it always positions her as somehow being an observer, as outside the action, detached in some way, even outcast, if you like, in some way as well. And it just got me thinking about, you know, the LGBTIQ community and how it's often positioned as the different or the other in that regard. And so I was thinking, is it useful for her as a lesbian character to be positioning herself in that way? And then I thought, on the other hand, how else could she position herself if you know, if she was attempting to draw attention to that's how we tend to get positioned. So yeah, do you get where I'm going with this?
I do. It's one of those. It's half of one and six. What is it? Six of one and half dozen of the other kind of thing. Because
so I guess it's drawing attention to the fact that often members of our community do feel like they're pushed to the sidelines, fringe dwellers, if you like. But that also makes us, at times, quite astute social observers.
That's where we get our stories of resilience and survival and striving from, which we wouldn't have if we were somehow nicely incorporated into the big rest of the pool of people in the world.
Exactly.
We do get ousted, but it's there that we find our strength.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly that's a common theme that I've seen, for instance, reflected in artwork submitted for Artfully Queer every year. This is its 12th year that it's been going. But it has, when you said our stories, you reminded me that I've often wished and longed for something like a queer short story competition or writers' festival, something like that, which we've mooted at times as part of Tas Pride Festival, that sort of thing. I'd love to see something like that.
I'd put some poetry in. Oh. Did I just confess that?
Yeah. No, hell yeah. I mean, I love short story as a form, as a literary form. I think it's wonderful and not easy to do, but yeah.
Let's talk about that again, Tracy.
I reckon we should. Maybe we could start something here, Matt.
In the meantime,
have a listen to the Ria May song, Clothes Off. It's actually quite a good dance number, like the one from last week was, Gold. And yeah, you know, is she deliberately positioning herself as the other in the narrative of those videos? What do you think? Have a look. You can always get in touch with us on Facebook. We just love this stuff. You're listening to Bent Air. Take your clothes off, Matt.
Hey. Okay, stay right there.
No.
Okay, put them back on quickly put them back on. The damage is done.
What has been seen cannot be unseen. Anyway, it's not surprising you're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM with me, Tracy, and Matt over there.
Hello.
And yeah, we were having a discussion about how we get positioned, how members of our community, the LGBTIQ community, can get positioned as outsiders, as another that's different to the norm, that sort of thing. And yeah, we were talking about it more while that song was playing by Ria May called Clothes Off. Matt didn't really take his clothes off, by the way. I'm quite disappointed.
Actually, clothes off is a good metaphor there, because if you're in a room full of people and you take your clothes off, you feel exposed, you feel sidelined, and then you start embracing how great it is to be one that looks just so much better than everybody else. I am a nudist at heart. We should talk about that another day.
No, we should. No, absolutely. I love nudity. I love nudist beaches.
Me too. When are we going to get one of those? There's another project we can start on.
There was talk about one in the news just recently down here in Tassie, but I'm trying to remember where it was. Can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, nudity aside, being an outsider can be a positive thing. It makes you a great social observer. It can actually give you a sense of power within yourself. But if it's uncomfortable at times and you can't find a way back in when you want to be, and you're meeting resistance from a society that positions you as outside all the time, that can be a real issue. Yeah. But it's certainly not one that has to be an issue for you alone, because there are quite a few of us that experience that at times, or for some even all the time. And there's plenty of support out there, and even if you're a person who doesn't feel they need support, there's plenty of companionship and the recognition of yourself and your experience in others when you catch up with people who are like you. Yeah. And I encourage you to do so.
Yeah, definitely.
Get involved. Things like the art exhibition that we were just talking about, fabulous. Tas Pride Festival is coming up too, starting in the last weekend of October.
Yes.
We're going to be doing that big Halloween party that we always do, starting with a festival cruise, the Sunset Cruise on the River Derwent, which has become a very popular number and lots of fun.
Good time of year
The
for
dolphins
that.
Came out last
year.
Yes,
I remember hearing about that. That's lovely.
It was so many dolphins. Anyway, we have neglected to get back to a subject that you were talking about earlier. We discussed a whole lot of stuff around hepatitis B, but we haven't done hepatitis C yet.
Yeah, hepatitis C, that's right.
Because World Hepatitis Day is coming up on July 28th, and you can get along to the launch of World Hepatitis Day in Tasmania at Tascard on July 28th at 11:30. We're also going to be officially opening our new drop-in space, and I'm teaming up with Carolyn from Anglicare the following week to do a community forum about hepatitis C in particular.
Oh, right, okay. What kind of topics are you going to be covering in that forum?
It's really specific. It's for both sector workers, health sector workers that are interested, but it's also for community members as well. And it's going to be specifically looking at the barriers and pathways to the new hepatitis C treatments that are now available.
Barriers to them. I know it's more and more accessible these days, and the news is generally good. But what are the barriers that you're talking about?
I guess the single biggest barriers remain what they have always been, and that's stigma and discrimination and the trauma associated with the way lots of people who have acquired hepatitis C have been treated in the past, especially, unfortunately, by the medical sector and society in general. So,
okay, just back to basics for a second. What are the ways of transmission of hepatitis C?
It's a bloodborne virus, and the only way that you can acquire hepatitis C is if an infected person's blood gets into your bloodstream. It's not regarded as a sexually transmissible infection, although there are some instances of transmission via, during sex, but it's because somebody's blood got into your bloodstream. It's not, as such in sexual fluids and that sort of thing. So
also, therefore, sharing needles would be a way that it can be transmitted, and therefore stigma.
And in Australia and in most parts of the world, the burden of hepatitis C has been carried by people who are injecting drug users or have been at some time in their life. Lots of people don't know they have hepatitis C, and it is another one of those, a bit not quite as much as hepatitis B, but quite the insidious sort of disease, in that you can have it for a long time. You can have it for 20 years or more and have no... and not be aware of it. It can still be doing damage to your liver over that time, but you're just not aware of it.
Okay.
There's no vaccination for it either, unlike hepatitis B, but there is something that cures 95% of the people who take the treatment.
That's the great news from this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been around for about 12 months or so now, the new hepatitis C treatment. It was made available on the PBS in Australia on 1st of March this year. There's still access issues for people in that you've got to find a doctor who will support you through the prescribing doctor through the treatment, which is much shorter. And this is one of the things that we'll talk about, the trauma associated for people who know about the treatment but decide they're not going to try and get it. The trauma of people who are injecting drug users or have been in the past in terms of the discrimination they've experienced and at the hands of the medical profession is significant, and it's one of the major things that, even though they know that if they've been diagnosed and have hepatitis C, could cause them to not be prepared to put themselves at risk as they'd see it by seeking access to the new treatment. Trauma through the way they were treated by, for instance, drug replacement therapy through methadone clinics. People have just been discriminated against and treated awfully. Just going to a hospital if you've had an accident or something like that, if you're an injecting drug user, I don't know what switches off in the minds of people working in hospitals, but I've heard such shocking stories from people who, basically they were just treated like animals, left in pain, just accused of seeking pain medications because, they're addicted, that sort of stuff. Really awful treatment. So that stuff is traumatic, and it puts people off seeking treatment because they anticipate that they'll be treated badly again. The old hepatitis C treatments have caused trauma because they were awful. The old
side effects wise,
they contained interferon and made people very sick. Relationship breakdowns, loss of employment. The treatment would last for about 6 months, sometimes for 12 months, and with a less guarantee of actually being cured anyway. So the trauma associated with having experienced that or having heard the stories from other people who experienced it is also significant. So that message of the new treatment, you're only on it for 12 weeks. There might be some very mild side effects like headaches, that sort of stuff, but nothing like the old one is really important. We're trying to get that message out, and we're using World Hepatitis Day to do so. The new treatment is so different to the old treatment. It's only 12 weeks, 95% cure rate, which is incredible. And very few side effects, but it's also about bringing GPs on board who want to get engaged with people who are injecting drugs or who have in the past, and making sure that level of discrimination that they might be anxious about isn't there is a big one.
I guess we just have to be careful as well and make sure that we're aware of that little data that 95% of cases do get cured, but it depends on the type of hep C virus that you've got as well. It? So it's not it's not blanket.
It's not, but the 95% cure rate is for the subtypes 1 and 3, which are the most common in Australia. So,
and getting in
it's
touch
still
with
pretty
your
good
GP.
for 2 as well, if you do happen to be one of the ones with that. So but it'll involve some testing. I mean, of course, there are a few people out there who think and have believed that they've had hepatitis C for years who don't, because 1 in 4 people clear the virus.
Naturally, with no treatment.
It is an acute illness that, and their body generally clears it within 6 months. So they've had a test for antibodies, which shows that they've been touch with the virus, but they haven't had a test for the actual virus itself, and so don't realise that they're actually not Hep C positive.
Wow.
It's a biggie.
Complicated.
It is. It is. There are some complexities around it, but on the other hand, if you give somewhere like Tascard a call or Anglicare, we can demystify it pretty well, and also it's a great way to actually get back engaged with your health again if it's something that you've neglected for a long time as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great, and we can probably point people to some GPs or pharmacies that are getting more in the know. And
we actually can, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's it's still something that has a ways to go in Tasmania, especially, but yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're actually making progress.
We're doing the good work.
Yeah, about 50 people a month in Tasmania are now getting hooked up with that new treatment. They're on it. Yeah, which is amazing.
50 a month.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Yeah, all over it, people. We have to go.
We do. How did that happen?
We have to
go. All right. So, what are you playing us out to, Tracy?
I'm just realising that I've probably missed my chance to play a Dave Bowie song of the week. Although we could finish with Space Oddity. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. This is a bit of an old classic, obviously. So yeah, Women on Edge is coming up next. So stay tuned for that.
Great talking with you.
Indeed. Keep talking, Matt. Just for a second.
Oh well, maybe I'll sing a song.
No, don't do that.
The
song's up now.
Okay.
It'll probably have to finish a little early, but yeah, you've been listening to Ben Air. We'll be back next week.
See ya.
Here's Space Oddity.
Have a lovely week.